This needs to stop. Financial creators need to stop telling people not to save for retirement. That is the epitome of bad advice. I've seen so many self-proclaimed financial gurus telling people to avoid 401ks and IRAs, so much so that it's actually become mainstream. I don't understand how this is counterculture today, but you need to save for retirement. I don't care if you're an employee or an entrepreneur. Everyone needs to save for retirement. In today's video, I'm going to give you 4 of the most important reasons as to why you need to be saving for retirement. But before we get into it, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. Let's dive in. The first and most obvious reason as to why you need to save for retirement is that you don't want to have to work forever. Whether you love your job or you hate your job, at some point you're going to want to retire. It can be difficult to think that far into the future, but we need to be planning ahead because at some point you're going to have kids and your kids are going to have kids, which will make you a grandparent. Now, do you want to be the kind of grandparent that doesn't get to spend any time with their grandkids because they're always having to work? Or do you want to be the kind of grandparent that gets to hang out with their grandkids, spend time with family, have the flexibility in their retirement to do what they want? Or maybe you have hobbies that you'd like to pursue in retirement. Maybe you want to golf multiple times per week, or be able to go on a spontaneous fishing trip as you please. At a bare minimum, you should want to have all of your expenses met without having to worry about running out of money. Having to work, needing to work will definitely put a damper in your retirement. Even though most people hold some sort of job in retirement, I promise you it's better to do so by choice because you want to be doing something as opposed to having to work in order to pay for your expenses. I have a buddy that started a construction company that absolutely took off. It just blew up. And so he was actually able to sell the company for millions of dollars, which allowed him to retire in his early 40s. After he retired, he spent 2 years traveling the world, golfing as much as he possibly could, but eventually he got bored. So what did he do? He went back to work, but it was his choice, and he was able to only accept jobs that he wanted to take. So don't put yourself in a position that you need to work in retirement in order to pay your bills. The second reason, and I've noticed this can be a bit more of a cultural thing, but it's that you shouldn't have your kids support your retirement. If you don't have money saved for retirement, and if you can't physically work, oftentimes it falls upon your kids to support you. You should not want to become a burden on your children. That's working backwards. I would consider that the equivalent of living paycheck to paycheck. That idea of living paycheck to paycheck is that you're living on next month's income. So you can't ever get ahead because you're always behind. Relying on your children to support your retirement is relying on the next generation's income. It's the same thing. Therefore, you can never get ahead because each generation is having to support the previous one. So if your kids are focused on supporting your retirement, they can't focus on saving for their retirement, which means their kids are going to have to support their retirement, and so on and so on. It creates this cycle that keeps people from building wealth. Trust me, you don't want to fall into that cycle. I know this is hard for people to comprehend, but generational wealth is not just passing on millions of dollars to the next generation. In fact, more often than not, that's not what generational wealth looks like. What it looks like is your son wanting to start a business and you being in the financial position to be able to invest in his dreams so that he can be more successful than you were. And then your son is able to set up his kids for success so that each generation is better off than the previous one. But it starts with making sure that you're setting yourself up for success, especially when it comes to retirement. The third reason you need to be saving for retirement is that Social Security is not enough. I talk with a lot of people that say, I don't need to save for retirement, I'll have Social Security. Yeah, that's the intent, but the second reason I just went over, not having the next generation support the previous one, is exactly what's happening with Social Security. The Social Security fund is pretty much broke, which means current retirees aren't receiving back the money that they put into it. They're receiving money that current working class people are paying into it. The people that are currently working are supporting those who are retired. It's the same exact thing. Now, putting that aside, if you were to ask anyone on Social Security if it's enough to pay all of their bills, they would say absolutely not. On average, Social Security only covers about 40% of the income you need in retirement. Imagine trying to live on 40% of your income right now. For most people, that would be impossible, and it's no different in retirement, which means it's your job to come up with the other 60% that you're going to need. The last reason I'll go over has to deal with inflation and investment returns. There's a lot of financial people out there encouraging people to forego their 401ks and get into real estate investing instead. Real estate investing can be great, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to saving for retirement, it's not the best option, and I'll explain why. When it comes to real estate investing, there's two main components: property appreciation and rental income. The first, property appreciation, has historically averaged 4% annually, while inflation has historically averaged 3% annually. So real estate only outpaces inflation by about 1%. It's not great, but it can be better than just a savings account. However, it's nowhere near how much a 401k can outpace inflation. And then if you're depending on the home's appreciation to fund your retirement, you'll either have to sell the house and pay capital gains tax, or you cash out refinance, at which point you still have a mortgage payment, which is going to heavily increase your expenses in retirement. Now, in addition to property appreciation, the second is rental income. This is income produced by real estate through the form of rent. But there's a couple problems with this. First, are the homes paid off? If not, most of that rental income is going to go towards paying off the mortgage. And even if the homes are paid off, if you're relying on the rental income, what happens when you can't find renters? Again, real estate investing can be great. I'm not against it at all. However, I think there's much better options when it comes to saving towards retirement or supplementing retirement income. A great way to see this is to compare monthly mortgage payments to 401k investments. If you were to buy a $300,000 house, the monthly mortgage payment would be $2,100. Assuming a 4% historical return, after 30 years, that $300,000 house would be worth $1.3 million. Not bad. However, if you were to put that $2,100 into your 401k and IRA every month, assuming a 10% historical return, after 30 years, you'd have $4.1 million. That would give you $165,000 in retirement income each year. However, renting out that $1.3 million home would at most, and this is generous, give you $60,000 a year. Choosing the right investments in a 401k and an IRA can help you better hedge against inflation and provide you with more stable income in retirement. So those are 4 reasons why you need to be saving for retirement. And I'll let you in on a little hint. Get started now. Time, the amount of time you invest for, is way more important than the amount of money you're investing. I don't care if you get started with $50 a month. Just get started. Your future self will thank you.